Jackson Radio Show.
Welcome, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. It's the Kevin Jackson Show, KJRadio.com. Glad you are with me. You can reach us at 844-551-8255. And we have had a vibrant discussion around scary things for black people. And statues of Confederates happens to be at the top of the list, second only to the Confederate flag. And CNN did a panel. Allison Camerata hosted a panel of, I guess, Trump supporters, and they weighed in on the whole thing with this statue, and it was an interesting discussion. So I want to play that for you now. We have that clip. Let's run it.
Okay, how many people, show of hands, think that the statues should stay put?
Now I stop it there in order to tell you that of the 6 people on this panel, including a black woman, only one guy didn't raise his hand. Everyone else said the statue should stay. I don't know which way she asked the question, but 5 of the 6 people said the statue should stay. And one of them was the person who said it was not the black woman on the panel. It was actually a white guy. And he's the person I want to discuss because he's most interesting in, you can almost see his liberal tendencies at the end of it, and I'll explain it. So let's continue with what he has to say, but I want you to understand he was the only one who didn't raise his hand when she says, do you care if these statues stay? Do you know, and most of these people, 5 of the 6 said, not a care in the world. So here's the rest of that clip.
You think the statue should go?
I think if we're going to take the statues down, we should replace it with something else. I can't see anyone complaining about taking out Robert Lee if you're replacing with General Patton. Good luck arguing that one.
Okay. Do you think that the statues should stay up?
I think that it should be decided by each jurisdiction.
And how are you comfortable with them?
I'm not even really affected by it. What statue? Where are we gonna stop? MLK. I mean, everybody's fair game, Rocky. Every statue has an issue. I guarantee you.
Now I want to stop it there to explain who spoke just now. By the way, you listen to the Kevin Jackson Show, KJRadio.com. Allison Camerata's got this group, 6 people. Supposedly supporters of the statues, keeping the statues, but they asked, how many of you prefer that the statues stay? 5 hands go up. 1 hand doesn't, the man. And he says, no, but we should replace it with somebody we all accept. And he uses General Patton. Now, I don't know much about Patton, but I'll tell you this. If I learned about Patton, he's a dude, he's a human being, it made mistakes. I bet you there's somebody that would say, I don't ever want to see a statue of Patton, and it's not just the Germans. So then this black chick, Allison Camerata, is shocked on CNN that this black woman's hand goes up to say, I don't care if these statues stay up. So she says, well, why you, ma'am? And she says, why would I care? She's like, and she goes on to say something really profound. Let the people of that jurisdiction determine it. Why should we have a national referendum on something that people in Richmond, Virginia have decided is okay? And so I thought it was one of the most sage comments she could make. But then she said something even more deep. Why not Rocky? Sylvester Stallone. Has he wronged somebody? Rocky, is Apollo Creed's widow going to be mad? You get what I'm saying? And of course, that leads me back to the Patton comment. What statue are you going to put up that somebody doesn't disagree with? That somebody in the media doesn't side with and say, you know what, we no longer like them. You might put a statue of Bill Clinton up. I don't care about it. But then maybe the women's movement down the road goes, you know what, we don't like the statue of Bill Clinton. He was a womanizer. He was a philanderer. He was a rapist and a sexual harasser and a misogynist and a host of other things. Why not tear his down? Why not tear down his library? I asked the people at the University of Texas, why don't you go to tear down the LBJ library? He was a racist. And even though the history has rewritten LBJ as a person who's for civil rights and all that, it was nonsense. It's a vile racist. What about FDR? What about Woodrow Wilson? What about Harry Truman being a member of the Klan? Oh, well, he only did it for political purposes. Well, who cares? I don't want any statues of any of them. And why not Martin Luther King? There's all kinds of rumors about him. Who doesn't want his statue up? As a black lady said, where does it stop? Now I want to play the rest of this clip.
You know, we have 100 years of more heroes that if you want to, if that's what you want. But I'll tell you what, the Civil War is considered the war that has the most American casualties in history. And that's because both sides were considered Americans.
Of course. It was our Civil War.
Yeah, so they're both considered Americans at death. When it comes to counting numbers of how many died in the war, they're all considered Americans, not traitors, not the other side, not the Confederates in the United States. To this day, there's still people that have relatives that fought in that war on both sides. We have families that fought on war on both sides. Exactly.
But despite that, you think the statue should come down?
I think it's up to the cities. Put something else that represents America, something else we can be proud of, if that's the problem. If that's really the problem.
Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. So that was the same guy that said he wanted the statues to come down, who then defended the Confederate soldiers. And he was right. It's the same thing I've been saying. Why are you mad at the Confederate soldiers? These are guys that fought in a war because there were two sides against each other. And when the governments of the Confederacy and these United States decided they were going to go to war, the Southern boys said, they called it the War of Northern Aggression. They said these Northerners want to come down here and change your way of life. Most of the overwhelming majority of the young men who fought on behalf of the Confederacy did not own slaves. They were no closer to a slave than you. But they were fighting because they were told, look, we got a divided nation here, and we got to go to battle. And they did. But it had nothing to do with the things that we believe. And why should we completely whitewash them from history just because they lost? And I love somebody, well, those are people, they have relatives. Of course they have relatives. Their relatives are members of the United States of America. And if the war ended differently, we'd be talking about a completely different set of statues more than likely. Except I wouldn't be. I'd be a slave. So I'm glad things worked out the way that they did. But what cracks me up is this guy is effectively talking himself into the very position that he claims he doesn't want to take, which is the statue needs to be gone and we need to replace it with somebody else. Replace it with who that's going to suit whose needs. And if we're going to get into revisionist history, can't we rewrite what Patton was like? Does Patton have to end up a hero when it comes to how the left looks at things? What about if people that go, war is bad, it's evil for whatever reason, how are they going to feel about a Patton statue? Like him saying, I'd like to see you argue that. Well, I just did argue it. Anyway, let's play the rest of this clip.
And do we go beyond statues? Because look at our money. Take out your wallet. We got dead presidents that own slaves all over our money.
So you think George Washington is the same as Robert E. Lee?
No, but I will tell you that.
Hold on, L.A., do you think that they are the same?
No, I do not.
So then why are you using the slippery slope argument?
I agree with you. It's a very slippery slope. So where do we stop taking down monuments, pictures, representations of our history and our past? Because we need to teach our children and the next generation from the history that we have survived and been made better because of.
Welcome back, everybody. What's funny to me is Allison Camerata calls this woman out when she says, what about taking the presidents off of money? And so you're equating Washington to Robert E. Lee. Yeah, and you should have seen the look on her face. It was like, oh, so you're equating him, like, I got you. What is he trying to do? What's the gotcha politics? I don't know if Washington owned slaves. Somebody said that he did. But whether he did or he didn't, Robert E. Lee fighting is in what the South called the War of Northern Aggression doesn't make him less of a man. Camerata is trying to effectively say that if you're equating Washington to Robert E. Lee, then yes, we do need to get rid of him. It was such a liberal line of questioning. A better line of questioning would not have been, are you equating these guys to Robert E. Lee? It would be like, so what you're saying is that everybody in the forming of this nation is going to, we will run into some sort of an issue with all of them. Is that correct? They'd already broached the subject, but she's wanting to go back and demonize the people who fought to free this country and make it appear as though if you go all the way back, you can understand why we're having this discussion, why black people should be afraid. Let me tell you something. If we don't have a country, who are you going to be mad at about slavery? It was interesting to watch on so many levels because CNN doesn't, and I'm not going to blame the network. I'll blame the individuals. They don't even know what they want their agenda to be. Why isn't your agenda a search for the truth? Why can't you have a legitimate, open discussion about statues and say, so I want to hear it from all points of view. Is it offensive to blacks? Is it offensive to Southerners that you want to tear it down? Why is it that it seems Northerners have a bigger issue with it? They won the war. Why can't this be a local issue? It's a states' right versus federal. Should government even be intervening in this at all? Is it an act of terror to destroy these? There are so many good things to talk about, but you can tell the agenda-driven, narrative of CNN, and that's what's sad. At least it is for me.
Kevin Jackson on the Black Sphere Radio Network.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177, or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.